with all the craze about mid-strolling and hanging minnows and jig head minnows and front-facing sonar and all this finesse spinning tackle, there's going to be a time when they stop eating the minnow. And what's going to be the next big thing after the minnow? I think we might be talking about that tonight. So we might be on the forefront of what's going to come next after the minnow. At least that's what I think. So to talk about the juice, we're going to bring in the juice. What's going on, man?
What's up, buddy?
So tonight we're back finally Wednesday night HellaBass live, presented by Arsenal Fishing, boosted by Powerhouse Lithium. We're back, ready to talk some fishing. I guess how's the audio and everything? Looks like Brian says it looks good, sounds good. I feel like it's been a minute. I've been fishing tournaments, traveling. I probably had one of the most aggravating flights home from Chicago today. My boss made me book a ticket last minute because I was fishing last week. I didn't book it till Sunday morning. Was in and out the same day. So I got stuck with a back, literally the last row, middle seat. And we got stuck on the runway for like 45 minutes to an hour because evidently Minneapolis is doing some construction on their runway and they couldn't have as many planes. And so that was aggravating because the flight's only 45 minutes. So when you sit on the tarmac for 45 minutes, it's, and then I'm in the back. It's like right on the engine. I have not been in a plane that loud. I could not hear through my headphones, barely. I was trying to listen to some old BTL replays with Panger and I can't think. I'm so frustrated. What's his name? Justin Lucas. And I can't even hear
Okay.
the story about the 13 pounder. And the guy next to me, he doesn't have headphones, so he's just got his phone on speaker. Like
That's convenient.
7,000, 100,000 RPMs. And then, like, they're like, we're starting to descent, and then we're not descending. They clearly weren't ready for us, so we're just doing loops around Minneapolis for an extra half an hour longer than we should have been in the air. So, other than that, let's ready to rock and talk fishing and jigs.
Heck yeah.
I needed to share that and get that out of my system.
Well, it's good, man. Traveling can be frustrating. So,
So, so Jarrett Juice.
yeah.
If you listen to BTL, you may have heard some mentions. But this is the Juice that has been spoken, and he's been working on some things that he's kind of wants to start talking about. And but I guess just maybe before we get into that, give a little nugget on maybe some of your fishing background and how we got kind of up to this point.
Okay. I grew up in Chelsea, Oklahoma. It's like 35 minutes from Grand Lake. Um, my family pretty much lived out on my grandpa's ranch as a kid and just literally bass fished pretty much since I was probably like 8 years old, since I was able to ride a four-wheeler or my bike, whatever it took. And I grew up like a quarter mile away, so I pretty much lived there, and that's kind of how I got into the outdoors and fishing and hunting. But I fished, fishing tournaments wise. My mom used to every Thursday night go over to Lake Hudson. We call that Baby Grand. It's just right below Grand on the river system. And since I was 12 years old, like I started fishing Thursday night jackpots with one of my dad's best friends from work. And fishing out of like a 1992 Bass Cat with the 200 on it. I mean, I think
Pantera
he's, yeah,
classic.
man. It still had the old flasher on it the last time I was in it. Like I went crappie fishing with him. I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and he still had the. It's still the original boat he brought brand new. So, but that's. I grew up fishing pretty much on Lake Hudson and Grand Lake as far as bass fishing goes in the tournament scene. And my family uh, has had a place on Grand Lake since 1956. And so after baseball season in the summer times, like I go spend like a month with my great grandparents that retired over there. That was a retirement home, and kind of where I spent my summers, kind of cut my teeth in the bass fishing. Like it's kind of funny, like with my hair is like I can remember my great grandpa's tackle boxes that were just like full of hair jigs. That was, and he threw them a lot. But yeah, no. And then after I kind of started doing jackpots, I think I was like 16. Um, I started fishing like actual clubs with was the guy that would let me go jump in the boat with him when he would
Mhm.
need a co-angler. And then that kind of turned into matching with him for BFLs, and I did that, for a little bit in high school when I had time. And then I played a year of college baseball, got hurt, and then just ended up going to school at OU and kind of finding a group of guys, that love to bass fish. I'll tell you a funny story about Panger. The first time we first time we ever like I mean this is my first time ever go fishing with him. And like we had our first OU bass fishing like club like meeting. And he's like, "Hey dude, you like to pond fish?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I love that." And so he's like, I'll pick you up tomorrow." I was like, "All right, man, sounds good." He picks me up in this like 19, I don't know, it's like 98 two-door Grand Am, uh, and there was literally I literally grabbed like 2 rods. He had like probably 12 rods in there, and I mean the whole back seat was tackle. And I'll never forget this. Like I grew up like, in the country and listen to like good music. And I get in the car and he's got like that's a hockey thing, man. Like this dude was listening to some freaking like techno music, and it was just like so we called him glow sticks for the longest time. Just, I mean, he was into that stuff. So, but yeah, we took his car and went pond hopping, and that's kind of how him and I became friends over the years. So, and then I fished in college, and then him and I became team tournament partners after college, and um, fished almost every weekend as much as we could when he was not traveling and covering all the professional events. So,
Yeah,
but that's
awesome.
kind of my fishing background. So,
So when did you get into tying jigs?
so that was like 4 years ago. Actually, like I turned 40 literally next Tuesday. And so, yeah, yeah. And like I had been buying crappie jigs from a local hand tire. And anyways, like I was spending several hundred bucks a year on crappie jigs because I really got into live scoping uh, late 18, early 2019, and then went out and bought it myself and put it on my duck hunting boat and um, kind of just fished fished out of it for a while until I bought my bass boat. But I asked for a vise for my birthday, for my wife and kids, and, so I picked out my vise. Like, I did a bunch of research, and I was like, "Man, I can do this myself," and, like, because the guy that was tying for me wasn't really a fisherman. Like, I mean, not to sound like that, but he would go down to a dock occasionally and crappie fish off a dock, which that's fishing, but, like, I mean, he didn't have, like, knowledge of lake fishing, and, like, really how crappie react to baits and all that stuff, so, like, I kind of decided, and he changed his hook quality, and I was not on board with that and kinda got stuck with, like, probably, like, $250 worth of crappie jigs, so it's just like, "Okay, thanks." And then I
So they
was
were
like, "I'll do it
crappie
myself,"
jigs?
and I'll figure it. They were terrible, man, like, literally, like, multiple, the line ties would come out of the jig heads, like, on a pound and a half to 2-pound crappie, like, just it's kind of funny. Panger hooked up with like a probably a 20 or 30-pound flathead on one of those crappie jigs, and sure enough, it freaking pulled out the line tie out of the jig head. So, yeah, those are no longer in the boat or even allowed in the boat. So, but yeah, that's
So you
kind of how I
started
got started.
tying your own crappie jigs, and
Hmm.
then were you, selling your own crappie jigs or
Oh, I didn't sell my jigs until, I don't know, last year. Last spring, that's when I kind of formed Juice's Jigs. Tanger helped me come up with the name. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I didn't start like I tied and just used them myself and would tie some for friends, like just, hey, here's a dozen jigs, go try them out. And then that kind of grew into, you know, starting, because like I didn't know if I really wanted to do it, like,
Right.
because, I've got a busy life in general. But no, like, really what kind like, after Matt did that fishing show and used my jigs and then kinda he's like, "Dude, you just need to sell these, man, like, people will buy them," like, and I was like, "Okay." So then that started, like, taking the bass fisherman mentality to everything and dialing everything in and making sure it's done to a T, and I started using tungsten and, you know, tying a $5 crappie jig, people
Right.
and with the forward facing world, like, it's better return. And especially with crappie, it matters because you're trying, you've got long 12 to 13-foot rods, how I fish, and most people fish down here. Um, so you have to have precision drops, and in the wind, tungsten's more dense, sinks faster, blah, blah, blah. So you get more precision drops. So like it makes a difference, especially in the crappie world, more so than, you know, casting, 50 to 80 feet,
Sure.
with a bass jig. So that's, kind of, I've always tried to, in tackle, just trying to do everything better.
Right.
So,
And then that eventually, well, I mean, first of all, did you have, is it true that you had to start selling the jigs to pay for all the big fish Panger lost at the boat in team tournaments that could have
uh,
won money? Is that
1,000%. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were basically forced into it by the amount of big fish that Panger was losing in your jackpot tournaments.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Like had to have gas money somehow.
So the crappies then. So what was the evolution from the? I mean, obviously crappie fishing is huge across the country, super big,
Right.
especially in your
Right.
guys' region. How did we end up with the bigger, and what did that? How did that evolve?
Well, I mean, just like me being on the water, like during, yeah, I mean, I'm on the water at least once or, once a week. Um, and so like with crappie fishing, like I fish predominantly brush piles and rock piles here in Oklahoma. That's pretty much our structure that, go find them. And bass and crappie live in the same, areas. And being a bass guy by heart, like I would just drop some of those crappie, I make some bigger profile crappie jigs that will catch the bigger crappie. Sometimes it's a lot of guys will go smaller. I go bigger sometimes, and I would see this bass down there, and like on a side of a standing, on a standing timber, and I'd drop down to it with like a quarter ounce crappie jig, and they would smoke it. And I was catching like I don't know, I caught like 2 or 3 the first, like, year that I really tried to see if I could go, like, catch them out of the standing timber on those long rods, and I caught, like, several over 5 pounds. I caught one 6.5 pounder. It was a freaking rodeo to get that in with the 12-foot rod, but, I mean, literally just being on the water and seeing the bass on live scope and seeing how they would react to the hair, um,
Mhm.
that's kinda when the light bulb started going off. And then um, back in, I don't know, it was last summer. I had a buddy of mine in Nebraska that I tied a bunch of crappie jigs for, and I tied some new stuff like that is very similar to my uh, Hairmiki. That he calls me back the next day or the next week after he got his jigs and went fishing. He's like, "Dude, I smashed them." And they have like I think he fishes a lot of like 14, like 15-acre lakes, and he was like, "Dude, I absolutely smashed on your hair." And I was like, he goes, "I want you to tie me a bunch of bigger ones." And I was like, "Okay." So then I started messing with it myself, and then it kind of evolved into what I kind of put out there this year as far as the bass stuff. Like, and I kind of took a break last fall. I had some stuff going on that I just kind of from August to December, I didn't touch a jig, I didn't tie.
Mm.
So yeah, I probably would have had this stuff out there probably last August, but then not all that stuff happened, and I just kind of changed my priorities for a little bit. So
Shifted the trajectory.
yeah. But yeah, no, and then I just, it kind of evolved into, finally putting that stuff out there back in January this year. So it's kind of happened fast. So
Sure. So it kind of went from like crappie jigs, and you're kind of doing a few bigger crappie jigs slash bass jigs for buddies. How did
hmm
they end up in the hands of Robert Gee, the last two Elite Series events?
um, so I started like predominantly doing bass stuff, my crappie stuff. Like I just kind of put that on the back burner and focused on that, and I started doing a lot of different, like just kind of all the stuff I've had in my head for a little bit. As far as ideas, and kind of put all that stuff out there. And then literally right before the class, it was the week of the classic. I get the Instagram message from Robert G. Is was like I, it was along the lines of, "Hey man, I'd love to work with you. You really like your stuff. I think you're my guy." Like, I was like, "Okay." And I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, "Robert G." I was like, "Man, that dude just top 10 it, or, was leading the event at Toledo Bend." I'm like, "Yeah, I should probably answer this one." And so then him and I started talking, and I actually didn't get to go to the classic this year. It sucked, being in my home
This is a long
state
ways
here.
away. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, like, I drove right by it, on my way to, Branson for my kids' spring break and a family vacation, but, family always comes first. So, um but yeah, after the classic and the week of spring break, I came back, and, him and I started working together. Lots of test tank videos and lots of different variations of just trying to get the profile right, and we actually did a match the hatch deal.
Mhm.
He had a minnow and in his hand and sent it to me, and immediately I was like, I've been wanting to do something similar to that. Like it had been kind of on my mind. It's just, I was just trying to get good at each style jig that I was tying before I'd go on to the next one. And so then him and I worked for probably almost 2 weeks on that, and uh, then I tied. I don't know. I think I've tied for him well over 100 jigs easy. So he's got like a abundance of 'em. So, but yeah, that's kind of how him and I started working together, and kind of after I sent him to him, like none of the derbies really uh, kind of, you
Lined
know,
up.
it- yeah. And so like the Smith Lake event, like I knew he went and pre-practiced before the cutoff and sent me, some pictures of some 4 pound spotted bass and some some videos of that, and I was like, okay, like validation, like when you believe in something, like, and you're confident in a bait, but like if it's something new to somebody else, not everybody's got the confidence in it, but like it was like, okay, I'm validated, I'm in the mix, like I'm in the mind of, like, that he can catch him on him. So that was kind of when it was like, okay, this could go down. um and then a month later, or whatever it was, but yeah, he almost wins the thing, and on the final day, like, he couldn't get him to bite a minnow. Could not get him to bite a minnow. He kind of caught a few on my hair earlier in the week, a couple of key, like, fish earlier in the week, but he hadn't really thrown it a bunch, until later, I think, in that, Saturday, but going into Sunday, he had messaged me. He's like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna, uh, your jigs are going to be featured in the top 10 baits. He goes, man, I've caught some key fish on. I really appreciate it. And then the next day, it's live, and I'm actually fishing with a buddy of mine. It was his birthday, and he wanted to go catch some crappie, and so I'm like, and we're on a really crappy service lake, and so like I'm delayed, and my phone's just blowing up, and it's going down, and I'm not even getting to watch it. So, but it was really cool. So I've been really
Yeah.
fortunate to work with him, and like I said, he's pretty darn good. So
Although, two things. Can we really trust Robert Gee? First of all, he takes the pickles off his Chick-fil-A sandwich. Two, he's hooking the hooks inside the ceramic eyelet in this picture. It's kind of a couple red flags for me. I mean, he's clearly caught him. He's got 2 top 10s in the last 2 tournaments, sure, but those are a couple
Right.
of red flags when you think about it.
I didn't even think about that, but I would imagine that's just for presentation purposes, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, it looks better in the water, I promise you.
Well, that's been chewed on, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's been
that
murdered by
that's that's kinda
some
like the, right, when you have a swim jig and
Yeah,
it's down to its last 3 strands, that's when they eat it the best, right? Like, that's
yeah, yeah, man.
so, I mean, I imagine that thing looked a little bit more like this when it was
Yeah,
new.
yeah, that's it, dude.
So, yeah. Um, sorry. So we got a couple questions in the chat here. So Chris says, "What hook do you use?" And I think there's probably a few different answers to that. Like,
Yeah, so typically, I mean, like, I uh tie on owners, I tie on, dirties, I tie on, uh, let's see, Tato, is probably my favorite, honestly. It's a really, really good hook, and it's a 2.5/0 hook. Um, and it's got a unique line tie, that sets the bait. Like, it's further back. Actually, I may have one. Um, but this is probably my favorite as far as just the whole. I mean, it's a really good hook, and then, I'm terrible at this, but you can see the line ties further back in the, uh on the head there. So and I think that makes a
is
difference.
that the Tano right there?
Mhm. Yeah, that's the Tattoo Designs, and then I'm predominantly getting ready to tie on my own tungsten, which will have a mustad hook on them. So, anywhere from 3/0 to 1/0, depending
Yeah.
on
But
the jig head
but, like,
size.
the
So,
ones I have are all on the owner
range
range
rollers.
roller.
Correct.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And
so I got
that's a new one there that you have. Like, you're one of, like, maybe 4 or 5 people that have those, so
the range rollers or that pattern
That
or
that yeah, that's, yeah.
this. So I
That's
guess there's a couple
midnight
questions
owl.
already about how are we gonna get these. So there is no website currently, right? So I think
Currently,
what you
yeah.
explained to me is that you're planning to do drops through Lucky Lure, right?
Correct, correct. Yep.
So Lucky
Uh,
Lure Tackle is a shop, physical shop in
mhm.
is it near
Uh,
Tulsa, right?
no, it's in Oklahoma City here.
Oklahoma City.
I
Okay, sorry.
yeah. Yep. Yep.
So are they're gonna be physically there, but they're also gonna do drops on their website both? Or is it only gonna
Uh,
be drops on the
only
website?
on the website for now.
Okay.
Right now, that's kind of all I can do with my bandwidth. So, but yeah, it's all gonna be on Lucky Lure Tackle for right now. Eventually, I'm gonna try to get my own website and, you know, um, do my thing there. Um, but for the time being, Michael Strantz at Lucky Lure is one of my friends, but he's gracious enough to know that I needed help, and and I him and his team are gonna help me out with these first. And like I said, I may do that for quite a while until I can kind of get everything rolling. I'm in the process of hiring a couple of other tires here locally, and I've got a buddy that I've got to fly up to Colorado and spend a few days with him and train him how to tie the jigs. So
So short term, it's basically be kind of like the garage swim bait scene. So the best thing to do is to follow both Juice Jigs on Instagram, which
mm,
if you're looking at the replay, there'll be links down the description that you can click on if you can't figure out how to get to Juice Jigs on Instagram. But then also Lucky Lure Tackle on Instagram. Both of those would be worth a follow to make sure you and I think you're targeting end August, September, early
yeah,
September, right? Like that's kind of
yeah,
your
yeah,
soft target at this point to be determined,
well,
but that's kind of what you're
well,
aiming for the first
we're
drop, or has that
we're
changed?
no, it's I think it's going to be on the 29th.
Of
Um,
September or August?
August. Yeah,
Okay.
this month. So 2 weeks. So um, from tomorrow. So, but yeah, just right before the Labor Day weekend, I want to get those out the door and get them in people's hands. And it's been, dude, it's been smashing them, man. Not on Elite Series, but here locally. I mean, it's kind of been that's like the fun part for me is to see everybody else have success with what I'm doing. Like, there's nothing better than that for me. So as a jig
And I think
tire. So
Juice Jigs is only on Instagram, right? But I think Lucky
yeah,
Lure you could probably find Lucky Lure on Facebook and other
yeah,
platforms too. So if you don't have Instagram,
yeah,
then so
yeah. I haven't done the Facebook deal just because I've been so busy with traffic.
well, now that you're
Just off.
40, you're old enough to be on Facebook. So
Not yet, not yet. No, but yeah, so I'm really not on Facebook yet. I may eventually do that, obviously for marketing purposes, but right now I'm just trying to build a team of guys that can tie and make sure they're done right, and so we can put out. That way, I'm not worried about anything. So
yeah, so they said Lucky Lure has Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, soon to be YouTube. So whatever your poison is. Frank Jr., what's going on? So I guess yeah, I guess a couple here, like kind of this smoke
that's the purple gas, is what I call that one.
purple
So
gas. So
purple gas,
straight
yeah,
gas right there.
straight gas, man, and that's kind of like a. I mean, I really like purples over blues personally.
Sure.
That's kind of like just me personally. So it's
So
kind of
what's this guy?
that is I think what did I call that one? Midnight Olive, I think.
Okay. And then
Yeah,
here's like kind of almost like a reverse of that with more
yeah,
black on the outside.
yeah,
And this one
and
is
yeah.
similar.
And my idea behind that is kind of geared towards smallmouth.
Hmm.
When everybody and their dog is throwing a black or olive marabou, you can throw that hair to be different. You know what I mean? Like just and it'll look like a leech, but just like I like the olive and black look as far as just in the water and it that those colors catch them. So
That's is that like your Tennessee Shad or what is
yeah, that's the TN shad. Yeah,
okay.
that's probably that's the one that most that's kind of been the deal, that deal right there. So
And I guess you did send a couple of these more
yeah,
traditional marabou, little smally little what we would call the Canadian dinner mint here, right? But this one's
yeah,
got a little
yeah, and
it's
those
pretty
have a
black, but it's got a little bit of olive and some other
it, and
kind of
that's what I call
subtle.
yeah, that's what I call the trifecta. That's actually got black, a little bit of brown, and then the golden olive. So
It doesn't quite show up as well on the camera as it does in
y-
person.
right, so
Yeah.
just I always try to be subtly different than most mainstream baits. That's kind of my goal, is to be different,
Well,
in
Panger makes it
colors.
sound like there's not much subtle about you being different, but
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah,
you're just kind of more of a black and purple.
yeah, and that's been one of the main, one of the main colors that most of my smallmouth guys order, is the black and purple, or straight black, obviously. But like if there's any accents, it's always purple or chartreuse. So
Sure. Let's see what other questions we got. So some people will call this, I don't know, is there like, I've heard Hairmiki, the Hariy Damiki, like,
yeah,
is there any
I
like,
I think just to shorten it up, like Haramiki just sounds better.
yeah,
Hariy Damiki was kind of a joke, and I just kind of went with it because, like, I didn't want to overthink naming a jig. Because honestly, I never thought I would be doing this right now and talking
right.
about it. So it was, just kind of having fun with some of my buddies and trying to come up with a name. And honestly, that's what we came up with, or what I decided on. So
So for everyone's like, juice, what juice do you like with your biscuits and gravy?
um, man, I'm an orange juice guy. So
Yeah, fair.
yeah.
Make sure you don't get scurvy. It's good.
That's right. Not too much though.
So Clay wants to know, does it ever make sense to put a paddle tail or not on these? Or does the hair fight the paddle tail?
Yeah, you like I tie some that are designed for like a minnow, or a you could even throw it on a with a
So,
paddle
so you'll
tail.
you'll tie some that have more body, less, so that the head will puff out
Yeah, it'll
the
flare the
front, and
hair.
then it doesn't interfere in the back. So you have some
Yeah.
designed for that. If that's what you really wanted, you have some that you're going to be having that
Yeah,
way.
and that's really what I kinda started doing, with the crappie jigs, and I tied it's basically a hair collar essentially,
Mhm.
and but that's kinda the first, like, kind of couple runs that I did. But, like, the guy up in Nebraska, like, I actually tied the hackle feathers into the jig, but, like, I started working with just, like, flaring the hair with a minnow, and that's, when I went out and kind of experimented myself out on Lake Eufaula, last July. So, and I had a couple pretty good days on it. So, especially for July, catching 15 pounds and 18 pounds back to back is not easy to do out there. And it was on a holiday weekend too. So, yep, that's it. And that's a well used one. That was kind of the inception of kind of what I was doing, so, or what I've been doing. So.
What about anybody floating flying these?
So actually, I have a guy here in Oklahoma that does a lot of that, and I tie like a bunch of the 16th and 8th ounce stuff for him, and up to like a 30-second, yeah, 30-second ounce for my buddy Jacob. So, and he's actually making a bunch of jig heads for me for my big hair stuff. So
Let's see here. And then I guess Chris just wants to know, like, how much time goes into something like this.
It just depends on obviously the profile of the jig, but like um, this one is, I mean, and I obviously tie them quicker than most. This one will probably take me anywhere from, like, if I don't have any distractions or anything like that, it's usually like 7 to 15 minutes is usually kind of like, if I run into, like, I will back out. Like if I'm not happy with it, I'll back out and redo it and just kind of get it dialed in. So, but yeah, it's it's
The ones that you're
it's
not happy with, you can always just save those for Panger. Like, that's a thing.
exactly exactly in the trash pile.
Yeah, like that's the seconds pile. YouTube cuz says you need large size juice jigs. Like he's looking for an 8-inch juice jig.
Um, I've got some what I call birdies that are shuttlecocks that are that 7.5 inch. Is about as big as I've done so far. So, but there's some stuff that I'm working on this fall that's I can probably do up to an 8 inch, but that's I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of get that dialed in before I put that out there to the public. And actually, G's gonna work with me on that this fall some. Him and I've already talked
Like
about it.
here's a 3/8 ounce birdie. That's a little bigger profile jig, right?
Mhm. Yeah, in the 3/8, and that's probably like a 7.25 inch with your if you count the feathers in the profile, so
I might dabble. I might. There's a coincidence that I might have these before leach. I could see a scenario where I might test them. It could be a thing. Let's see here. Somebody had an idea about a where did I see that? Like a little prop, little underspin, kind of like mixing the hair with the what is it, the Hokushira style.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I can tie just on about anything. I actually did, I don't have any, actually, my son lost one at Lake Eufaula, like a like 3 weeks ago. But I tie, like, some hair on some shin spins, some green tackle shin spins. It's a little
Sure.
prop bait. Um, I'll throw hair on it, and it's fun to throw. I caught a bunch of spotted bass on it on Eufaula, around I was just trying to put my 5-year-old on fish, so we went to the high percentage spotted bass areas and see if I could put them on them. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
I can
that's a
definitely.
decent little bait. So,
Yeah, I'm interested because I've I've definitely caught fish on like a smallie style marabou jig. Never
mhm,
been like my super big confidence thing. But in the last 2 summers, I've kind of started to grow some confidence in like the big chicken Minnesota mullet like style jigs. I've
mhm,
definitely seen times, especially now seeing and what's given me more confidence in it is actually live scope, and not because I'm necessarily seeing the fish and like trying to pick them off with live scope.
mhm,
What I'm seeing is like I'm finding fish in an area they're usually tucked in grass, hiding around bluegill beds. You kind of get glimpses of them, and sometimes I can go in there and like I can catch a fish or two on drop shot, like finessing them, and maybe get a bite,
mhm,
maybe not get a bite, or maybe get one to eat a swim bait. But I've had times where like literally dead sticking a drop shot right where I know the fish are sitting, can't hardly get a bite. And then I'll wake up, take out a big hair jig and count it down and slow roll it through there. And then like it'll just get bum rushed by like 4 to 5 giants and one of them will smoke it. And you're like, there's something there. You know what I mean? Like you
dude.
see that
Oh
happen
man,
a couple times and you're like, there might it's not an everyday thing, it's not an all the time thing, but
no,
sometimes
it's
it's the
it's
deal.
to it's totally situational. As far as like the big hair stuff goes. I like to throw the big hair a lot, so
Mhm.
but you and I were talking, the other day about, like, that you fish it you slow roll it, right? Like, just on grass edges,
Yeah.
pretty much, and, down here, we're snapping it, like, typically, and,
Which
like,
I think is a
usually
forage thing. We don't have shad in most lakes I'm fishing, so I think that's
mhm,
right. Like I said, I think the fish here are thinking it's a bluegill or crappie, so that's more of that like just floating through the water column thing versus shad tend to like dart and like right. Like if you're in a lake with gizzard shad, right? If you've ever seen gizzard shad, it makes a lot more sense to have it like scooting off and like flashing. That's probably going to trigger more than like I said. I think I throw a lot of white and smoke and things like that, which I think in our lakes is looks like a crappie. So I think you never see a crappie like flying
yeah,
around like like a shad with his head cut off, right? They're tend to just kind of moseying around, and I think that's what the bass, you know,
right,
up here are used to seeing.
right. I like, I, um I tie some, like, super sneaky stuff in my big hair it's I'm kind of all about kind of controlling. I'm into hydrology, with the slowing the rate, and I do something. I do some stuff a little bit different on the big hair that gives you
Mhm.
a better hook. c- That gives you a better hookup ratio. You know how like when it like the big hair, it's bulky as crap, and you don't have much bar, of your hook gap exposed. So I've kind of figured out
Yeah,
some things there that, and then and to just to dial it in better than the stuff you buy off the shelf. So
yeah. And for me, on my big stuff, it's mostly been like the L-cast and the Northland jig, which, I mean, obviously they're mass produced and they have their
mm.
positives and negatives. But I've actually caught pike that never got the hook. It just gets tangled in their teeth, like the hooks,
That's interesting.
like in the corner of their mouth where the teeth that like everything comes together. They just get it like wadded up. It's
I've
pretty wild.
actually never caught a pike. I've never been fishing up north.
Such a treat. I mean, we all up here really love and cherish the pike. Like it's a really cherished species down up here. Like
Yeah.
it's a treat.
Do you eat them? Do people eat those
Actually,
things?
pike out of cold water are delicious. Like they're
Really? Okay.
like if you can get them out of deeper, cooler water in the spring and fall, super good eating. The little bit of a trick to fillet to get the bones out and the Y bones.
Okay.
Um, but no, I think pike is underrated table fare. I actually think they have more. It's maybe sacrilegious, but I think walleyes don't have a lot of flavor. They taste like the shore lunch you put them in. Like, I think fish like perch and like pike have a better flavor to me than some of those other fish.
The perch are the best thing I've ever had as far as like a freshwater fish. It's
Mhm.
incredible. Those big yellows. So
Yeah, pike better than walleye.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
eat a pike, save a jackhammer. Maybe maybe eat a pike, save a hair jig. Maybe that's a future T-shirt
That's
for you.
I like it. Save crazy.
Uh, So yeah, so I guess we are gonna like I think you said you were gonna give away a jig or two later. Well, so stick around for that. But I guess we didn't. I mean, we talked about like the drops following. Do you have an idea about what these are gonna cost?
So I'm trying to finalize that with Lucky Lure, but it's gonna be in that 12 to $15 range. So
Okay. So
depending depending on the jig head, because some are more
sure.
expensive than others, and that's just the way it is. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of like, I mean, there is some variability in your time to tie in a hair and how much you put in it, but probably the cost of the jig head is right. So like, if you're buying range rollers versus something you can source like that changes. But I mean, that's on par with right. Like most of the mullets and chickens, most of those are $15 jigs. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I mean, it takes time, and I've spent a lot of time doing it. So and I didn't wanna, like, it's just like one of those deals, like, I don't wanna price myself out of the business either, but, like, I wanna be realistic and, you know
but you also
you
don't
know
want to like have your fingers bleeding for 12 cents a
No.
jig.
No. No. Look like this.
Feel like they sold really good for a year, but now I have arthritis in my hands and I can't tie them
Uh,
anymore. And I made
it's like
$73.
yeah. Like, what is that? Is that off of Happy Gilmore?
Yeah. My fingers hurt.
Here's
What's that? My fingers hurt. Well, you just pulled landscaping duty. Your back's gonna hurt.
that is so funny because, like, I actually had a conversation with my dad, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about, like, I was gonna try to hire some people, and I had a great grandmother and a great aunt that could crochet, like, watching TV and not looking down, and
Sure.
they were just incredible at what they did. I'm like, "They would be so awesome at this." I wish they were still here, so I would have had 2 of them that would have been all about it, so.
This is a good question. How many I mean, assuming a pike doesn't eat it, right? And we're just talking
Mhm.
bass here, like, I mean, what do you think is a normal range? I mean, there's
Um,
always variability, but
yeah, I mean, typically, like, probably 20 or 30 bass. I mean, like,
yeah.
honestly, like, I still have one tied on that I've caught I mean, I've had it tied on like unless the hook, that's the biggest thing for me. But as long as it's not, just falling apart or something like that, which shouldn't happen anyways, because I UV finish everything, where it shouldn't come apart ever. So, but yeah, I mean, typically, I mean, like I really, as far as I would say, like 20, 30 fish. I mean,
Yeah,
the stuff that
I
I
think
tie
that's
is
fair.
pretty durable. I know that one that you showed with the minnow. That was like 25 or 30 fish, and the paint was coming off before the hair. So,
Do you think Mrs. Juice should be concerned about messages like this?
yeah.
Uh, yeah, people are seem to be excited in the chat. So that's awesome.
I'm
Cool.
excited to get stuff out there, and I appreciate everybody's patience. Like my inbox has been kind of nuts over the last like 2 months, and trying to respond to everybody and understand that this is not my full-time job. Like, so
Yeah, we did talk about I think they're targeting end of August, Lucky Lure. So follow Lucky Lure and
yeah.
Juice Jigs on Instagram or any social media. Um, and you can DM them like every day up until then. Ask them if it's still on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just
Actually, Juice has
just
already got the automated response. So if you instant message him, it's like, "Hey, buddy, we're super
yeah,
overwhelmed." Da, 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 da."
I had to do something, man. I couldn't like, the most I think I got in one day was like close to 100 and some message. It took me like 2 hours to respond to everybody, but I I I try to make a point to do that, so as much as I can, so
So, but you guys have had success with largemouth, spots, smallies.
mhm,
I
and
guess we
and
what's that?
peacock bass, and
Peacocks.
peacock ba
Okay.
yeah, down in Hawaii. So
Well, that's right. We're actually going to take a super quick break here, and we come back. What we haven't talked about is like how you fish it, rod, reel, line. I mean, people might want to know that. So we're going to take a quick
yeah,
60-second break, and then we'll come back and tackle those hard hitting questions. And then just maybe we'll tell some panger stories or something like that. Like when we come back, if
yeah.
anybody's interested in any of that kind of stuff. Um,
Uh,
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask HellaBass. He trusted us to help finance his home. Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team, or click the link below in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen.
all right. Thanks to the dream team. Awesome. I actually heard rates have been dropping a little bit. So if anybody's like purchased a house or anything in the recent future and started, it'd be good to get on the list with Aaron at the dream team. And when you sell so many jigs that either you have to buy a shop or your wife kicks you out of the house and you have to get another house, like that could be a thing for you, Juice. So
that hey man, no, honestly, I talked to my investment guy literally yesterday, and he was telling me because he was looking at buying some land to build a house on, and he's like, I think we're gonna time this perfect. They're supposed to drop like a 1.5% with by September, so we'll see. That's what the markets are showing, so we'll see.
yeah, cool. So yeah, since you've done more of this, and I guess obviously you have a couple different variations, but I think like this let's focus with like the Hairmiki, right? Like you're kind of
Hmm.
whatever 3/16 quarter ounce 3/8 style. Like what are people targeting? How are they fishing it? Is it only live scope? Are there other ways to fish it? I guess.
I mean, so typically, like it is geared towards live scope, but however, I mean, I've throw. I mean, you can throw them blind and then just and so what typically how I fish them and most people that have had success fish them is it's either like brush piles or rock piles. It's structure oriented or bait, or if they're pelagic and bait oriented fish. Like I mean, you see the fish on scope and you cast, and it's just you just let it pendulum back over the fish. You let the hair do the work, and you just kind of just a slow tight line, um, and kind of and it, like and honestly, like you can like the dead stick is kind of the deal. It's kind of like the old school Damiki style fishing. Um, and the only time you ever like I've shaked it and like got a reaction, like got him to bite doing that is around what I call active brush piles or active structure, like where there's bait over a rock pile or a brush pile, and then you can get a reaction strike by shaking it or jigging it up really quick and just getting a reaction strike out of that. But typically, it's just a slow, like just slow pendulum, and it's just a slow fall down to the fish, and then like it's kind of funny. A buddy of mine, he caught like a 5 pounder on the TNN Shad up in
Mhm.
Minnesota a, a week ago, or yeah, it was last week I think, or the week before. But anyways, he was telling me the story yesterday, and he was like, man, like I just let it set there, and he's throwing an 1/8 ounce on a calm flat day, and so like my philosophy is always go as light as you can, to get down to the fish, because if the bite is like like if it's the bite's tough, like you put a little little bait in front of something, they'll just suck it in, man. And like he like had it setting there for I don't know however long, and all of a sudden his bait just disappeared. Like, and he was just like, I just kind of reeled into it, and it was heavy. I set the hook. He goes, it just sucked it in. He goes, the fish didn't even move. So, but it was
Yeah,
a fish that was sitting there on a grass edge. So,
sure. And you typically want to keep it above the fish, right? Same principles with
correct.
like a minnow. You want to keep it above
Hmm.
them.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, and then as far as going heavy and stuff like that, like to go to a 3/8 or a half ounce, obviously those are on windy days and you're just trying to get it down there to them. Um, but like with the half ounce, it's like sometimes it is you get it down there and you're just trying to get a reaction strike out of them. You're dropping
Mhm.
it super fast and like, and I've actually gone by them with that and like you can get them to react to it. So.
Sure. But would you say 3/16 is your go-to in day out or quarter or what
Uh,
is
3/16 or quarter. Like I like the quarter because there we're in Oklahoma, so it's always a little bit windy. So you're trying to fight the 3/16 a little bit more, like if on a windy day. But like honestly, like if it's a dead flat day, I'll go eighth or 3/16 predominantly. Three
Mhm.
sixteenths is kind of the sweet spot, like depending on the day. So
And is it kinda like your 6'10", 7-foot medium light spinning rod braid to fluoro? Is that like your
yeah, just I mean sunline braid to like, if I'm throwing it over open water, I'm going 6 pound test. I know a lot of
Mhm.
people don't like lighter line. I know there's a lot of guys that throw heavier stuff at 10 to 12 pound, but I just get more bites on that 6 pound test than I do. But if I'm fishing around structure, I'll go 8 on my leader, but usually 15 to 20 pound braid. On I throw it on a 7 foot Falcon lowrider,
Mhm.
medium. Um, but I th I think I'm gonna go to a different rod eventually, so, I wanna the key is, like, for hair, I think, is the extra fast tip. That's the sweet spot for a hair jig rod, so, and you can find them anywhere from that
So, I mean, like a
6'9"
Ned
to
rod,
frick
right? Like, I mean, like
yeah,
the rod you throw a
exact
net on,
mhm,
if you're already mid-stroll in a minnow, like same
mhm,
kind of setups for the most
yeah,
part. Like you could be some
exact
fine tuning, but that's gonna get you in the ballpark of where you wanna be.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I throw it so much like that I'm gonna buy a rod just specifically for it, so
but you don't need it to get started, right? Like your
No,
typical drop shot Ned rod is going to get you started, and then if you're like, it's just like, right, like you can start throwing swim baits on a flipping stick, and then once you get hooked, then you
yeah.
start going down the
No,
right.
you
So
go down the rabbit hole, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So, but like, and I mean, I'm a Shimano guy, so I prefer any Shimano reel
Mhm.
for my setup. So,
Is there anything we didn't touch on as far so like your drop that's coming up? Is it mainly going to be this style? Is that what the
um,
focus is, or is there going to be a variety, or what kind of stuff can people be watching for?
so I have abundant, like I've tied that profile predominantly for this first.
Mhm.
I say the first batch. It's just easier for me. Like once I set up with a color and just go, like, I'm just trying to stick to one color and one profile. So like this week, later this week, I'm going to start on like my other profile. And I don't even have, I don't think I have one tied on the rod in the boat, but it's just a little bit bigger profile and some different hair. It's not as slender as that one. It's not as subtle. It has
Mhm.
a lot more hair and a lot more movement to it. So, but yeah,
But if things go well, right, like there'll be kind of more your Hairmiki. You'll probably have some of the smally jigs. You'll have some of
hmm
your bigger birdie jigs, right? Like there'll be
hmm
potentially multiple options, but in for the short term, it's going to be kind of the Hairmiki stuff. Sounds like.
yeah, yeah, and in the future too, I'm gonna offer like on these drops. So what I call the juice box. I'm gonna build. Uh, I'm gonna build kind of like what I like. I'll have like a largemouth box, and then I'll have like a smallmouth box, like, and it'll have a variety of jigs, and it'll be in the drop. So like that's kind of
Like
like,
a $150 box comes with the
yeah,
box and
yeah,
8 jigs or whatever or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and just give somebody kind of the full arsenal of the variety, and so. But I'm not gonna do that on this first one. I'm just gonna try to get as many jigs tied as I can, and as I, start, continue to do these, that's kind of what I'll offer as an option. It might be five boxes will be, for the first time that I do it, and then we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, I'm just gonna sell them as singles on Lucky Lure. So. Yeah, that's the only way to store hair is the G boxes. If you don't have one, you need to get one. Like I like them to even like store my like just regulars, just like swim bait jig heads that I paint or I've made. So I'm a big, they're great storage. So, and then also another thing too is like if you're not a hair guy and you've never thrown these, always make sure that you let the hair dry before you put it back in the box,
Don't put it
because
up
it'll
wet. Is that what you're
no,
saying?
yeah, it'll be a bad experience. Like you're gonna be super disappointed in a couple of days when you got some rust. So
Oh. Hmm. All right. I feel like we kind of covered a lot of the jig stuff. Let's see here. All right. So Panger sent me 5 questions to ask you.
oh boy,
I'll let you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
oh boy. Let's go with number three.
Number 3, your favorite two-step dance move.
Oh boy, man, he's seen them all over the years. I don't even know, man. I used to I used to flip girls. That was always kind of like my go-to,
Oh,
Bring I don't know if
back in
you've
your
ever
single
seen it.
days, of course.
Yeah, the Texas two-step, like it's kind of like Texas swing dancing. So, but yeah, I grew up like going to rodeo roundup clubs and learned how to two-step at the like, and we frequented the Wormy Dog in Bricktown in Oklahoma City when it was still there. It had like it's a big country music Red Dirt Texas Country bar, and so. But yeah, that's funny.
Right. MJ says, did Panger get bullied more during college hockey or during the fancy fishing pick'em show on Upshaw's channel?
I would say definitely more on the fantasy pick'em, because he had like two of his buddies in college on the
Enforcers?
hockey team. They were like the Crash Brothers from Mighty Ducks. It's like, and he was the little guy in the background mouthing everybody. So,
Another question: did he get bullied more on the Oklahoma fishing team or than the fantasy pick'em show?
oh man, that's a tough one because we kind of all just
Just
gave
kind
each
of all
other.
busting each other's, yeah.
Oh, dude, it was
That's just
pretty.
fishing clubs, right? Like everybody's, yeah,
Oh, dude, it's a brotherhood, man. Like, and
yeah.
those are, I still talk to all the guys that we kind of started the team with, and it's kind of funny. I was telling like the story the other day. It was like like we fished in the very first collegiate like televised like national championship down in Louisville Lake, and I was like, dude, that was a long freaking time ago.
Squeezing the juice. That's from it's Pauly Shore, right? Like
Yeah, he's in the juice.
I don't remember the
Uh,
movie, but it was Pauly
uh,
Shore. They're like the guy, and he's like, "No, he's in the juice." It was like a 7-Eleven. I don't remember. I had the opportunity at the landing at the Selfridge landing at St. Clair to tell Ish to be nicer to Pangrac, but I did not take that opportunity to say that.
I think it's funny. I've talked about like trying to do a roast for
Encino
Panger
Man, that's what it
for
was.
Panger, but I don't think he could handle it.
Yeah, he does seem kind of fragile.
Yeah, he's delicate.
I don't know. Is there anything? I guess anything you'd like to, any stories you'd like to tell about Panger, since
Oh
you answered a
man,
question of his.
I'm trying to think of some good ones.
Maybe like a team tournament story.
Yeah, yeah, like it was kind of funny. So like he always gives me a ton of crap. Like, I mean, like our relationship is probably best if you've ever seen the movie Step Brothers. That's pretty that kind of that kind of defines our, our relationship. But I'm probably the closest thing he's ever had to a brother. Um, team tournament. I'm trying to think. I mean, probably. I'm trying to think of like a really good one. Um, I'm trying to think. Um, he said he's never like lost his crap on the water before, and never like Bo Jackson to rod. Like he was talking about it like on a different podcast, or
Yeah, I heard
even,
that recently.
yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm like, dude, you're
Yeah,
such
he
a
was
you're
talking to.
uh was it Manson, Smallmouth Crush, and those guys? I think that's what when he was up there
No, I feel like
for.
he was talking to somebody that was a college angler because they said their college partner did do it. I thought.
Oh, dude. So, like, we were fishing on Grand Lake. It was either Skeeters or Nichols. It was a big tournament. It was like a 200 plus boat tournament, and like he was not having a good day. Like he lost like 4 or 5 fish, like on either like on treble hook baits. And like after the fourth one, like he just yells and screams as loud as he can. I look up to the front deck, and he just Bo Jackson's this probably $300 rod, and I'm like, "You feel better?" And like, yeah, I've actually got some pretty good stories. So Panger, like, he'll like he like if you're on the water, you'll figure out that he is like literally the weirdest human on the face of the earth. He has all these what if scenarios, and I mean, it's like out there, like the most messed up stuff that you've ever heard of in your life. And you're like, like why? And he's super ADD, and like he would purposely not take his medication on purpose because I'd want to drown him about after 2 hours in the boat with him. Just, I mean, he'll drive you nuts. So I can tell I can tell a few other ones, but I can't tell those on it. So, um,
So I guess I will. So if member privilege here. So if one of the members wants to pick between 1, 2, 4, and 5 on the next question, I'll let the next member that wants to pick the next question from Panger. 1, 2, 4, or 5. Critical Gravy says 5. What's the best way to smoke a steak?
oh, that's easy. So probably like I smoke it at probably 160 for an hour, then wrap it in foil and let it rest while I crank up the aluminum plates on the grill and get it up to 700 degrees and
Just sear
sear
it.
but I put garlic butter, like when I let them rest, I pull them, I put it on the bottom, on the top of each steak and just let it sit there in butter, garlic butter. And yeah. um,
That was
I
not that
cook
eventful. I feel like
no,
Panger
that
would
was
want to have like some kind of debate about this. Like he would be like, "Oh, like
no,
Drew
he
thinks he
does
knows how to cook a steak, but I know how to cook a steak," and like that's
uh
that whole like right, like
yeah.
that's doesn't really come across that way.
uh, I can cook better than him, he knows it, so
Yeah. So how can Juice tell the colors considering that you're colorblind?
oh, so yeah, true story, I'm colorblind, so I actually have a colorblind app if I get in a jam. So
It doesn't
yeah.
it doesn't matter as long as you know what the fish like. It doesn't matter what it really
Oh,
looks like, right?
oh, exactly, and yeah, exactly. No, but I have a colorblind app on my phone if I get in the jam, and if I'm really unsure of it, I just go ask my wife. So, but yeah, that is, and I've trained myself over the years of like, I see colors, but like, I mean, the hues and all the color.
Right, like if you need to like if you need to pick out the green pumpkin zoom blue fleck versus the green pumpkin blue fleck zoom, you probably struggle to figure out which one's which. But
Yeah,
like,
there you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but right, but if I think everybody agrees that if you can tie a gas like that, then I guess you see just fine, right?
That's
So
right. No,
that's
I mean,
probably why
like I
you like
said,
purple though, right? Because isn't purple one of the easiest colors to see?
I see. I'm
Or
blues and
maybe it just
purple. I'm blues and purples and greens and browns and
okay.
reds. So I'm really, yeah. Like I got for Christmas, like my mother-in-law bought me these expensive colorblind glasses, and I was like, yeah, they don't work for me because it's like you're they were green red colorblind glasses, and I'm like, yeah, I'm it's kind of worse for me. So
All right, we'll do one more. What's the backstory on the nickname Juice?
oh God.
I think this has
So,
actually been told on BTL, but
Y
we'll go ahead
yeah,
and just get it out of the
well,
way here.
let's tell the truth, because Panger, like,
Oh,
he tells
okay.
about 10% of that, so my roommate and my fishing p my team tournament partner on the OE bass fishing team was Justin Hurd, and, um, one he's my roommate too, so, like, him and I lived together, for 2.5 years, and I really don't even know why, but he just started calling me Juice one day, and I was like, "W okay, whatever," and I just kinda let it roll, and then it just like, everybody started calling me Juice, and then when, uh, like, my seniors the summer in between my junior and senior year of college, like, when the Elite Series, came to Grand Lake, we worked for ESPN Outdoors, and wrote blogs for the week and covered that event and got to do some really cool stuff, but they were all calling me Juice, like, and then it kind of stuck there. And then I wrote my first blog, and we sent him into Panger, and like he's the communications manager, and he was interning for Jeffries at the Bass Zone all the way through college. And so he was editing all of our blogs and submitting them to ESPN. And the title of my article was "The Juice is Loose." And so then that was kind of like when it officially stuck, because literally nobody knew my first name the rest of the rest of the event. And but and they call me Juice Newton, which is a female country singer, to piss me off. That's kind of the one. It does actually piss me off, because I'm like, I'm okay with Juice, but like, come on, man, Newton.
So there's a fine line between like, yeah.
I mean,
It's
there's
like
worse
the
worse
what was that?
nicknames out there.
There was the that Jim Rome thing. Do you remember that? And it
No,
was the quarterback. There was you remember Jim Rome used to have like a talk show, and there was a quarterback that was kind of like, he was a veteran on the fringe. I can't remember his name though. Yeah, but he basically, the guy had knocked him out on TV, because it was the same kind of thing. It was like his name was this, but then he would add, and end up would be like whatever he put at the end made it the name of a female tennis player. Jim Everett. Yeah, it was Jim Everett.
Jim
And,
Everett.
and then, but
Yeah.
what was the Chris? He would call him Chris Everett, which was the female tennis. So it's the same kind of thing. And then he's like, "You call me Chris one more time, don't do it again." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean, Chris?" And he just came
Oh,
across the frickin' and smoked him. Like,
oh
if
yeah.
you're looking for like a YouTube, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Yeah. So that's the same kind of thing. So maybe someday somebody from the OU team will go too far,
Yeah,
and
I
then
know.
Juice will snap.
Yeah.
No links to OJ though. Like, there's no tie to that Juice. No, there's
No.
no
And
gloves. There's no, not have to worry about that.
no, and like that, like the guy that started it all, like you'd have to know him. He's just like the dude, like he's kind of he liked to stir the pot in every situation that he was in. So
I feel like
actually,
this is a good way to get a copyright check, but I feel like I need to play this now that I brought it
yeah.
up. All right. All right, let's
Jim, good to have you on.
I have that we came back and won.
How many sacks did you
How
have?
many sacks?
Well, see, but this was back in 1989.
Oh, that was
See,
about
you may have even been Jim Everett back there, but somewhere along the way, Jim, you ceased being Jim and you became Chris.
Well, let me tell you.
That's a big dude on a little guy too. Panger, one more time, dude. I'm coming.
one more time. I bet you won't say that one more time on BTL thing. That's awesome. We are completely off. Did we talk fishing or jigs tonight? I don't even remember.
Yeah, right. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, I could tell stories. I've had to drive all the way out to Panger's house, which is an hour away from my house, to teach him how to to put his lawnmower belt back on his lawnmower. I'm kind of like the big brother that knows how to do things. He can barely change a light bulb.
Let's give the people what they want. I mean, so we did say we were going to do a giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
So even though Panger is completely unable to figure out how to do this on his show, to actually do like a actual random giveaway that actually is fair to the crowd, that's what we do here. So just hashtag juice in the comments, and then we'll. So this would be your chance to potentially get a jig before Labor Day. So, Sean, first one there. He's been chomping at the bit all night. So let that run here for a few minutes, and then
Look at this.
yeah, people are excited.
Yeah, that's cool.
So if you came in late and you're wondering how to get a hold of these, follow Juice Jigs on the old IG. That'll be your best way to stay informed on the drops. I don't know. Is there anything else?
Man, not that I can think of. I did get word that my so I have my own tungsten jig line coming out.
Mhm.
I'll have regular standard tungsten, and then I'll have some resin tungsten jig heads as well. I'm gonna sell at Lucky Litter Tackle as well. They'll be
Nice.
available in store and online, and I think that
Like those are going to be bear heads or tied heads.
yeah, just
Okay.
bear, and that's what I'm gonna exclusively tie on probably going forward. So
But
that's
this
kind
first
of the
drop's going to have a little smattering. There's going to
yeah,
be a few options, or
yeah, and then the next, and I've got I've got a bunch that I had in as inventory of stuff that I've
Mhm.
bought from, just through Tackle Warehouse or Lucky Lure or Omnia, so that I've got to get rid of. So
So
I'll
speaking of
finish.
Omnia, you didn't use Panger's code, did you?
It only works once, so
Oh,
I've
yeah.
bought
Well,
I've bought more than one.
well,
I buy from there frequent, so it's like
for those that are not aware, I do have a monthly code that you can use once a month, Juice, and anybody else in the chat can use the
well,
code down on the bottom of the screen right now.
good
So,
good to know. I appreciate that.
so you do have 2 weeks to use this month's code. So while we're letting the comments rack up here on people wanting to get on the juice. Only 70 people and only 31 people so far. So Chris says he's sitting on a mountain of cash, ready for the drop. Yeah, Frank wins. You'll get a gift card. I'm not going to ship it. I'm going to make Jarrett ship them himself. I'm not going to be a middleman here.
No,
I'm not sending one of these, so it'll have to be. So if you win, you will probably have to slide into. You probably have to screenshot some proof that you won here, and
yeah.
then send that screenshot into Juice Jigs. Yeah. If you got any questions, fire away. If I missed your questions, Critical Gravy. Looks like people are. Everybody that wants in is in, I think. So. All right. We're gonna draw. 5 minutes. Last call for questions. I saw Kudu was in there.
Yeah.
Caro did win.
Dude.
The algorithm on my stream.
Clay needs to go to Vegas right now.
I think Carol lives in Arkansas, if I remember right. So
Okay. He's holding a big crappie, it looks like, too. So
there we go.
oh,
Is there going to
hey,
be an exclusive G jig or G color or anything like that?
I do have a funny story. So, like, one of my Hairmikis, actually, the same guy, my buddy in Nebraska, um, he actually caught a master. He got a master angler from In Fisherman in
Nice.
Nebraska. Yeah, on a crappie, and he's got a master angler for the crappie, and he missed a largemouth master angler by like less than a quarter of an inch too. So I thought I was gonna get 2 master anglers on my jigs. So that's kind of cool. So
All right. Carol, get your screenshot, and then you can send that to Juice Jigs Instagram. She likes purples and pinks as well. So
okay. I'll slide her some purple gas.
how many Elite Series anglers have Juice Jigs?
Right now there's 2, and then there's several on there's a few on the MLF tour, and then I'm gonna eventually work with a couple more Elite Series guys. Just kind of the end of the season, it kind of got away from us. I went to Hawaii for a week with my family for vacation, so that kind of just didn't happen before these last 2 events. So after the season's over, I'll get with those
I would
guys
just
and
start charging them.
just start charging them.
Just make them pay full price.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Carol says we've been entertaining and fun to listen to. MJ, so here's a Juice. How many master anglers do you think Matt, Stefan, and Panger will catch on their 2-week or their 10-day adventure? Honestly,
maybe 5.
I definitely think it's going to be less than double digits myself.
I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I don't know. I know that he's got like the connections to probably have a good chance at some legit species, but
Mhm.
like to do it, like, if they're still trying to do it in a week, I think they're absolutely nuts. Like there's just like
It's like 10 days. There's going to be so
yeah.
much travel that
Well,
like
I mean, you can't teleport yourself to a different lake, so like, and I don't know, man. Like I didn't even watch this morning's show. I haven't had a chance. I had a bunch of work to do. So, but yeah, I think there'll be less than 10 for sure. So, um, no, I did not bring my fly to Hawaii. I took some jigs to fish with my buddy Cash down there. Had a hell of a time. We caught
yeah. So did
I,
you end up getting? Yeah, you got
yeah,
the. So maybe let me end with that. Why don't we talk about your recent trip to Hawaii?
yeah. So like a month ago, like we had our family vacation planned for the end of July since probably March, and so like, anyways, the Hawaii bass fishing team is one of my followers, and I'd reached out to him for just recommendations, like of saltwater or freshwater fishing guides, or just recommendations of who I should, always the locals know the guys that are good as far as the guides go and stuff like that. Anyways, I messaged Matt Olson's the guy's name, super nice guy. Um, I messaged him and he's like, "No, man, like you don't need to hire a guide. Me and my son would love to take you out. We can." And I was like, "Well, I don't know what our plans are. We'll be there. This is the dates, and I'll let you know as we're getting closer." And I called him, I don't know, a week before for our trip, and unfortunately, he was back on the mainland, and I didn't get to meet him or fish with him. But he goes, "My son Cash will be there, and he'll come back to the main island." They spent a month over here. They're originally from the mainland, so. But anyway, so the first day, it was Monday of the trip. We got there on Saturday. We went fishing on Monday, and Cash is his 17-year-old son. And he's like Matty Wong 2.0, dude. This kid is a hammer. Like, um, and he picks me up, and like he was wanting to take me to the Waialua River, but there'd been so much rain that it was the current was too strong and it was going to be blown out, and that's like predominantly a clear body water, clear river. So he was like, let's give it a couple days and then we'll hit it later in the week. And I was like, okay. So anyways, he picks me up from my hotel and we go pond hopping in Hawaii. It was like I had so much fun doing that. Like it kind of like brought me back to my roots as like just going fishing. Like it was so much fun.
Sure.
But I'll tell you a funny story. So, being like over there, it's totally different than what we have here as far as public water access. And like we don't understand how blessed we are to have the bodies of water that we get to fish. We snuck on to like one of his best peacock bass because that was like one of the like that's a bucket list species for me. So he he was trying to he takes me right to his best pond there that was like right down the road from my resort. And anyways, like we park at the end of the dirt road and we sneak in through the trees. We wait for golfers to roll by, and then each have a rod, and he's got a little tackle pack around his crossbody, and like we sneak into this golf course, and dude, we get there and we get 5 casts in, and he's like, all right, we see the Marshall like on the like right down like this pond was like right in the middle of in between 2 fairways. And we get 5 casts and we get kicked off by Barney Fife on the golf cart. He was pissed. Like he was giving us the business. He followed us on his golf cart all the way back to the tree line. And so then we went, we didn't catch anything there. And so then we went on to, we did a 2.5 mile hike into the largest reservoir, which is like a 500-acre lake on the island. And so then like we hike in and we're fishing with hair jigs and micro jerk baits on spinning rod tackle. And I've never been peacock bass fishing. But like we were fishing we were sight fishing for them on the bank. Like it was super cool. You could see their humps like sticking out of the water, like all down the bank. And they would be in like these schools eating the tilapia fry up in the shallows. And so I don't know, we probably caught like 20 to 30 peacock. And then I ended up catching a largemouth out of that reservoir as well on a jerkbait. So like I got 2 species the first 2 days. So I was going for the Hawaiian bass slam, or the triple crown, which is smallmouth, peacock, and largies. So I was kind of worried about the largemouth because I didn't know anything about Hawaii. I didn't even like I did my research. I knew they had bass in there. But I didn't even know they had smallmouth until I got to talking to those guys about it. And so anyways, so like I didn't go Tuesday because we had some family activities that we did. And so the next day, the Wednesday that was the last day that I got to fish to get it done. He picked me up with his boat and truck, and we went at 5:30 in the morning. We went and dumped in on the river, and it was that was probably one of the coolest experiences I've done fishing like that in paradise. Like this kid like threw a freaking frog like in clear water, and he does this like super sneaky like cadence with this frog, and it was almost like a big glide bait bite. Like it was almost a 5-pounder largemouth comes from like 6 to 8 feet away, and we saw the whole thing go down, and it just murders this. And I'm like, this was his 3rd cast. I'm like, holy crap! Like it's gonna go down today. And then, and we didn't catch a bass for like 2 hours, and then we finally gave up on the largemouth. And then we got up into the super skinny water. He has like the perfect setup. He has like I think it's like a 17-foot Bass Tracker Classic with an Ultrex, a power pole. He had a 12-inch, Garmin up front. We didn't scope at all. it just didn't really set up for that. But anyways, we went up and got up in the skinny water, and caught smallmouth the rest of the day. That was a ton of fun. I lost probably like a 3.5 pound smallmouth that I don't think it ever got the hook. We ran out of rings on the Cinco that I was fishing, and I kind of rigged it old school, and the hook was a little small to do that with, and to rig it wacky. And I don't think that smallmouth ever got it, but he was like, he got excited when that 3.5 pounder came up. He's like, "That's a giant for this river," and I was like, "Oh." And I got it to the boat, and it jumped and dumped me. But yeah, like we caught, I don't know, probably like 10 smallmouth, and then we caught that one big largemouth on the river, and it was kind of a tough day, but like I said, it was just super cool. The cool thing about that is the water temp, like year round, is in that like 69 to 72 range, like constant. So it's just totally different than anything we fish here. So, but that's that's like one of the only few bodies of water that he can go dump the boat in and have public access. Like everything is private up there, even the reservoirs that are owned by this like big family, like the Robinson family that bought this property back in they own like over hundreds of thousands of acres. They own their own private island. It's the smallest island in the Hawaiian Islands. It's a super unique place, but like for a kid that like, I mean, he has to go check out a key, like to go fish the Waiata Reservoir, I think is what it's called. So it's and they've got a bass club there, and they fish like 1 or 2 derbies a year on that reservoir, and it's got peacock bass, smallmouth, and largemouth. So super cool.
Pretty cool. Sounds like an awesome trip.
Yeah, dude, it was a good time. So, and we got to went up to see the Nepali coast at a catamaran cruise up there. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. If you've never done that, I highly recommend that. So
yeah, right on. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
talking
having me.
about the jigs. I'm looking forward to playing with them next week. See what the
give me
smallies
some
think of them.
feedback. Yeah, give me some feedback and let me know how you do. So,
and yeah, super excited. And if everybody came in late, definitely go back, check out the replay, whether you're Facebook, YouTube, MP3. Don't forget to go check out Juice Jigs if you're interested. Lucky Lure Tackle Box or Lucky Lure Tackle?
Lucky Lure Tap. Yeah,
Lucky
Lure
check
Tackle.
that out. And yeah, excited to see the drop, excited to see what comes out. If nothing else, just follow along and get your tackle, fix, like checking out cool tackle, on there's a lot of good Instagram photos there of cool stuff. So
yeah, and I will say this, if you guys do get jigs on the drop, please let me know, and like through Instagram message me and let me know, and like I can tell you about some of the sneaky stuff that I do that will give you more success with this hair. So I'm not giving that up right now. So I got enough people trying to copy what I'm doing. So
right on. Cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Juice.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, it was fun.
Well, appreciate it, man. Thanks again.
Yeah. I've seen a few people. Your Instagram followers went up a little bit tonight, so I noticed.
Yeah, that's good.
But as always, here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less.
Yes.